I've earned 30 plus certifications, and I'm here to guide you to success on your exam. Welcome to the ultimate DP-700 exam masterclass. Are you ready to crack the DP-700 exam in one go? You're in the right place. In this session, we'll arm you with powerful insights and hand-picked questions that can make all the difference in your exam performance. We've scanned the web using intelligent crawlers to gather the most critical and high-impact questions, all compiled into one powerful PDF resource. You can download it from the link in the description. Not only will we explore these must-practice questions, but we'll also share real exam experiences and pro tips to give you that competitive edge. Let's dive into the key questions that could shape your success. Question 1. You have a Fabric workspace. You have semi-structured data. You need to read the data by using T-SQL, KQL, and Apache Spark. The data will only be written by using Spark. What should you use to store the data? A. A lakehouse. B. An event house. C. A data mart. D. A warehouse. Correct answer B. An event house. Explanation. An event house supports semi-structured data ingestion via Spark and allows querying using T-SQL, KQL, and Spark, making it suitable when Spark is the only right engine. Question 2. You have a Fabric workspace that contains a warehouse named Warehouse 1. You have an on-premises Microsoft SQL Server database named Database 1 that is accessed by using an on-premises data gateway. You need to copy data from Database 1 to Warehouse 1. Which item should you use? A. A data flow Gen 1 data flow. B. A data pipeline. C. A KQL query set. D. A notebook. Correct answer B. A data pipeline. Explanation. A data pipeline supports copying data from on-premises SQL Server via a gateway and efficiently loading it into a Fabric warehouse with scheduling and monitoring. Question 3. You have a Fabric workspace that contains a warehouse named Warehouse 1. You have an on-premises Microsoft SQL Server database named Database 1 that is accessed by using an on-premises data gateway. You need to copy data from Database 1 to Warehouse 1. Which item should you use? A. An Apache Spark job definition. B. A data pipeline. C. A data flow Gen 1 data flow. D. An event stream. Correct answer B. A data pipeline. Explanation. A data pipeline provides native copy activities, gateway support, scheduling, and monitoring, making it the preferred choice for structured data movement into warehouses. Question 4. You have a Fabric workspace named Workspace 1 that contains a notebook named Notebook 1. In Workspace 1, you create a new notebook named Notebook 2. You need to ensure that you can attach Notebook 2 to the same Apache Spark session as Notebook 1. What should you do? A. Enable high concurrency for notebooks. B. Enable dynamic allocation for the Spark pool. C. Change the runtime version. D. Increase the number of executors. Correct answer A. Enable high concurrency for notebooks. Explanation. High concurrency allows multiple notebooks to share the same Spark session, enabling session reuse and reducing startup time for interactive workloads. Question 5. You have a Fabric warehouse named DW1. DW1 contains a table that stores sales data and is used by multiple sales representatives. You plan to implement row-level security (RLS). You need to ensure that the sales representatives can see only their respective data. Which warehouse object do you require to implement RLS? A. Stored procedure. B. Constraint. C. Schema. D. Function. Correct answer D. Function. Explanation. Row-level security in Fabric warehouses uses inline table-valued functions to define filtering logic applied to rows based on the executing user. Question 6. You have a Fabric workspace named Workspace 1 that contains a warehouse named Warehouse 1. You plan to deploy Warehouse 1 to a new workspace named Workspace 2. As part of the deployment process, you need to verify whether Warehouse 1 contains invalid references. The solution must minimize development effort. What should you use? A. A database project. B. A deployment pipeline. C. A Python script. D. A T-SQL script. Correct answer B. A deployment pipeline. Explanation. Deployment pipelines automatically validate dependencies and references during deployment, requiring minimal manual effort and providing built-in validation feedback. Question 7. You have a Fabric deployment pipeline that uses 3 workspaces named Dev, Test, and Prod. You need to deploy an event house as part of the deployment process. What should you use to add the event house to the deployment process? A. GitHub Actions. B. A deployment pipeline. C. An Azure DevOps pipeline. Correct answer, C. An Azure DevOps pipeline. Explanation. Event houses are not natively supported in Fabric deployment pipelines and require Azure DevOps pipelines for CI/CD-based deployment automation. Question 8. You have a Fabric workspace that contains a real-time intelligence solution and an event-to-see. Users report that from OneLake File Explorer, they cannot see the data from the event-to-see. You enable OneLake availability for the event-to-see. What will be copied to OneLake? A. Only data added to new databases that are added to the event house. B. Only the existing data in the event house. C. No data. D. Both new data and existing data in the event house. E. Only new data added to the event house. Correct answer E. Only new data added to the event house. Explanation. Enabling OneLake availability does not retroactively copy existing data. Only new data ingested after enabling the setting is written to OneLake. Question 9. You have a Fabric workspace that contains a write-intensive warehouse named DW1. DW1 stores staging tables that are used to load a dimensional model. The tables are often read once, dropped, and then recreated to process new data. You need to minimize the load time of DW1. What should you do? A. Enable viewOrder. B. Create statistics. C. Drop statistics. D. Disable viewOrder. Correct answer D. Disable viewOrder. Explanation. ViewOrder optimizes read performance but increases write overhead. Disabling it improves load performance for write-heavy, transient staging tables. Question 10. You have a Fabric workspace named Workspace 1 that contains an Apache Spark job definition named Job1. You have an Azure SQL database named Source1 that has public internet access disabled. You need to ensure that Job1 can access the data in Source1. What should you create? A. An on-premises data gateway. B. A managed private endpoint. C. An integration runtime. D. A data management gateway. Correct answer B. A managed private endpoint. Explanation. Managed private endpoints provide secure private connectivity from Fabric to Azure resources that have public access disabled. Question 11. You have a Fabric workspace that contains an event stream named Event Stream 1. Event Stream 1 outputs events to a table in a lakehouse. You need to remove files that are older than 7 days and are no longer in use. Which command should you run? A. Vacuum. B. Compute. C. Optimize. D. Clone. Correct answer A. Vacuum. Explanation. Vacuum removes obsolete files that are no longer referenced by the Delta table, freeing storage space after the retention threshold. Question 12. You have a Fabric workspace that contains a semantic model named Model 1. You need to monitor the refresh history of Model 1 and visualize the refresh history in a chart. What should you use? A. The refresh history from the settings of Model 1. B. A notebook. C. A data flow Gen 2 data flow. D. A data pipeline. Correct answer B. A notebook. Explanation. Notebooks can query refresh metadata and visualize it using charts, enabling custom monitoring and historical analysis of semantic model refreshes. Question 13. You have a Fabric workspace that contains a lakehouse and a notebook named Notebook 1. Notebook 1 reads data into a data frame from a table named Table 1 and applies transformation logic. The data from the data frame is then written to a new delta table named Table 2 by using a merge operation. You need to consolidate the underlying Parquet files in Table 1. Which command should you run? A. Vacuum. B. Broadcast. C. Optimize. D. Cache. Correct answer C. Optimize. Explanation. Optimize compacts small Parquet files into larger ones, improving query performance and reducing file fragmentation in delta tables. Question 14. You have 5 Fabric workspaces. You are monitoring the execution of items by using Monitoring Hub. You need to identify in which workspace a specific item runs. Which column should you view in Monitoring Hub? A. Start time. B. Capacity. C. Activity name. D. Submitter. E. Item type. F. Job type. G. Location. Correct answer G. Location. Explanation. The location column identifies the workspace where the execution occurred, enabling cross-workspace monitoring and troubleshooting. Question 15. You have a Fabric workspace that contains a warehouse named DW1. DW1 is loaded by using a notebook named Notebook 1. You need to identify which version of Delta was used when Notebook 1 was executed. What should you use? A. Real-time Hub. B. OneLake Data Hub. C. The Admin Monitoring Workspace. D. Fabric Monitor. E. The Microsoft Fabric Capacity Metrics app. Correct answer D. Fabric Monitor. Explanation. Fabric Monitor provides detailed execution metadata for notebooks, including runtime components such as Delta version information. Question 16. You have a Fabric workspace that contains a semantic model named Model 1. You need to dynamically execute and monitor the refresh progress of Model 1. What should you use? A. Dynamic Management Views in Microsoft SQL Server Management Studio, SSMS. B. Monitoring Hub. C. Dynamic Management Views in Azure Data Studio. D. A semantic link in a notebook. Correct answer D. A semantic link in a notebook. Explanation. Semantic link enables programmatic execution and monitoring of semantic model refresh operations directly from notebooks. Question 17. You have a Fabric workspace named Workspace 1. Your company acquires GitHub licenses. You need to configure source control for Workspace 1 to use GitHub. The solution must follow the principle of least privilege. Which permissions do you require to ensure that you can commit code to GitHub? A. Actions read and write, and contents read and write. B. Actions read and write only. C. Contents read and write only. D. Contents read and commit statuses read and write. Correct answer C. Contents read and write only. Explanation. Committing code requires write access to repository contents only. Additional permissions are unnecessary and violate least privilege principles. Question 18. You have a Fabric workspace named Workspace 1. You plan to configure Git integration for Workspace ONE by using an Azure DevOps Git repository. An Azure DevOps admin creates the required artifacts to support the integration of Workspace ONE. Which details do you require to perform the integration? A. The organization, project, Git repository, and branch. B. The personal access token, PAT, for Git authentication and the Git repository URL. C. The project, Git repository, branch, and Git folder. D. The Git repository URL and the Git folder. Correct answer A. The organization, project, Git repository, and branch. Explanation. Fabric Git integration requires identifying the Azure DevOps organization, project, repository, and target branch for source control mapping. Question 19. You have an Azure SQL database named DB1. In a Fabric workspace, you deploy an event stream named EventStreamDB1 to stream record changes from DB1 into a lakehouse. You discover that events are not being propagated to EventStreamDB1. You need to ensure that the events are propagated to EventStreamDB1. What should you do? A. Create a read-only replica of DB1. B. Create an Azure Stream Analytics job. C. Enable extended events for DB1. D. Enable Change Data Capture (CDC) for DB1. Correct answer D. Enable Change Data Capture (CDC) for DB1. Explanation. EventStream relies on CDC to capture row-level changes from Azure SQL databases for streaming into Fabric. Question 20. You have a Fabric workspace named Workspace ONE that contains a lakehouse named Lakehouse 1. Workspace ONE contains the following items: a Dataflow Gen 2 Dataflow that copies data from an on-premises Microsoft SQL Server database to Lakehouse 1. A notebook that transforms files and loads the data to Lakehouse 1. A data pipeline that loads a CSV file to Lakehouse 1. You need to develop an orchestration solution in Fabric that will load each item one after the other. The solution must be scheduled to run every 15 minutes. Which type of item should you use? A. Notebook. B. Warehouse. C. Dataflow Gen 2 Dataflow. D. Data pipeline. Correct answer D. Data pipeline. Explanation. Data pipelines support orchestration, dependency control, and scheduling, making them ideal for coordinating multiple Fabric items. Question 21. You have a Fabric deployment pipeline that uses 3 workspaces named Dev, Test, and Prod. You need to deploy an event house as part of the deployment process. What should you use to add the event house to the deployment process? A. An Azure DevOps pipeline. B. An event stream. C. GitHub Actions. Correct answer A. An Azure DevOps pipeline. Explanation. Event houses require Azure DevOps pipelines for automated deployment because they are not supported directly in Fabric deployment pipelines. Question 22. You have a Fabric warehouse named DW1. DW1 contains a table that stores sales data and is used by multiple sales representatives. You plan to implement row-level security (RLS). You need to ensure that the sales representatives can see only their respective data. Which warehouse object do you require to implement RLS? A. Trigger. B. Schema. C. Function. D. Database role. Correct answer C. Function. Explanation. RLS filtering logic is implemented using inline table-valued functions that return filtered rows based on user context. Question 23. You have a Fabric warehouse named DW1. DW1 contains a table that stores sales data and is used by multiple sales representatives. You plan to implement row-level security (RLS). You need to ensure that the sales representatives can see only their respective data. Which warehouse object do you require to implement RLS? A. Security policy. B. Table. C. Trigger. D. Stored procedure. Correct answer A. Security policy. Explanation. Security policies bind predicates to tables, enforcing row-level security rules during query execution. Question 24. You have a Fabric workspace named Workspace 1 that contains a warehouse named Warehouse 1. You plan to deploy Warehouse 1 to a new workspace named Workspace 2. As part of the deployment process, you need to verify whether Warehouse 1 contains invalid references. The solution must minimize development effort and provide detailed information about the invalid references. What should you use? A. A DBT project. B. A deployment pipeline. C. A Python script. D. A database project. Correct answer B. A deployment pipeline. Explanation. Deployment pipelines automatically detect invalid references and provide detailed deployment diagnostics with minimal development effort. Question 25. You have a Fabric workspace that contains an event stream named Event Stream 1. Event Stream 1 processes data from a thermal sensor by using event stream processing, and then stores the data in a lakehouse. You need to modify Event Stream 1 to include the standard deviation of the temperature. Which transform operator should you include in the Event Stream 1 logic? A. Expand. B. Group by. C. Union. D. Aggregate. Correct answer D. Aggregate. Explanation. Standard deviation is a statistical aggregation, and event stream aggregation logic is implemented using the aggregate transform operator. Question 26. You have a Fabric workspace that contains a lakehouse named Lakehouse 1. In an external data source, you have data files that are 500 gigabytes each. A new file is added every day. You need to ingest the data into Lakehouse 1 without applying any transformations. The solution must meet the following requirements. Trigger the process when a new file is added. Provide the highest throughput. Which type of item should you use to ingest the data? A. Event stream. B. Dataflow Gen 2. C. Streaming dataset. D. Data pipeline. Correct answer D. Data pipeline. Explanation. Data pipelines provide high-throughput ingestion, event-based triggers, and efficient large file copy operations into lakehouses. Question 27. You have a Fabric workspace that contains a lakehouse named Lakehouse 1. In an external data source, you have data files that are 500 gigabytes each. A new file is added every day. You need to ingest the data into Lakehouse 1 without applying any transformations. The solution must meet the following requirements. Trigger the process when a new file is added. Provide the highest throughput. Which type of item should you use to ingest the data? A. Data pipeline. B. Environment. C. KQL query set. D. Dataflow Gen 2. Correct answer A. Data pipeline. Explanation. Data pipelines are optimized for large-scale file ingestion with minimal transformation and maximum throughput. Question 28. You are developing a data pipeline named Pipeline 1. You need to add a copy data activity that will copy data from a Snowflake data source to a Fabric warehouse. What should you configure? A. Degree of copy parallelism. B. Fault tolerance. C. Enable staging. D. Enable logging. Correct answer C. Enable staging. Explanation. Staging improves performance and reliability when copying data from Snowflake to Fabric warehouses by using intermediate storage. Question 29. You have a Fabric workspace that contains an event stream named Event Stream 1. Event Stream 1 outputs events to a table named Table 1 in a lakehouse. The streaming data is sourced from motorway sensors and represents the speed of cars. You need to add a transformation to event stream 1 to average the car speeds. The speeds must be grouped by non-overlapping and contiguous time intervals of 1 minute. Each event must belong to exactly one window. Which windowing function should you use? A. Sliding. B. Hopping. C. Tumbling. D. Session. Correct answer, C. Tumbling. Explanation. Tumbling windows divide data into fixed, contiguous, non-overlapping intervals, ensuring each event belongs to exactly one window. Question 30. You have a Fabric workspace that contains a warehouse named Warehouse 1. You have an on-premises Microsoft SQL Server database named Database 1 that is accessed by using an on-premises data gateway. You need to copy data from Database 1 to Warehouse 1. Which item should you use? A. A data pipeline. B. An Apache Spark job definition. C. A streaming data flow. D. A notebook. Correct answer A. A data pipeline. Explanation. Data pipelines provide native copy activities, gateway support, scheduling, and monitoring for structured data ingestion into warehouses. Please revise full PDF 2 to 3 times for 100% success. Check the description for the PDF download link and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for upcoming episodes. Thank you.